Most of our sales are the Piper Direct sales force, but a very considerable chunk on Amazon and a very considerable chunk on our website. Those three channels are very different. While an Amazon listing, kind of looks like a web page, and our website obviously is a web page, even those two seemingly similar channels are extremely different. The reason that we balance it is simply a very pragmatic cash flow issue. In the early days of Piper, even before I worked here, the company was very focused on the educational toy market and would do, in the early years, perhaps 90% of the company's business between Black Friday and maybe December 20th. Very challenging to manage a year of cash flow with that sort of sales cycle. And even more importantly, but less obviously, those, say 5 or even 6 weeks would tend to shred the team. And with education, we get a nice Q1, Q2 sales bump. The peak selling season is kind of March through May, starts to taper a little bit off in June. You get another bump during back to school, and you're not selling that much during the summer with education when schools are closed, although big district activities still go on and state Department of Education activities go on. To mention the smallest of our three markets, the camps and technology clubs, those are actually pretty active during the summer. They're making their purchases by May, but they're live, they're calling you with customer support issues during summer. And then of course, there still is a consumer peak. But if all the sales are that consumer peak, that's quite challenging to manage, yet we can take that natural consumer peak in December and use those revenues to purchase inventory for the education season. The timing works out beautifully. So it gives us a little bit of market diversity and a little bit of cash flow balance. And I would recommend that you do exactly the same thing with your company too. Find some market, it might be something like career and technical education, it might be something like corporate training that gives you a little bit of diversity. I think the most important advice I can give there is that the most important aspect of the mission is sales. Ironically, at Piper, when I first joined, there were quite a few engineers and only one salesperson. We're a very tiny team, about a dozen of us, and almost a third of the company is devoted to sales. In terms of employees, there's only a couple of us that have engineering backgrounds. When we need more engineering and design support, what I'd recommend you do in your company is find some great engineers that, in addition to being brilliant engineers, are great leaders of people that people enjoy working with. You'll take those engineers and hire contractors as you move forward. You may not need a skill set for an entire year. You may need them for 3 months to get a release out, and plenty of contractors and consultants will be delighted to do that work and be in your queue for the next time you need them. But beware trying to build the dream team of brilliant engineers, and you should especially beware that if you do it at the expense of not adequately resourcing your company for sales. On a practical level, it means looking at the number of deals that you need to close, coming up with assumptions of the time to close those deals, coming up with assumptions on the level of support, the number of meetings, the number of demonstrations that'll require to get those sales going, and just doing the basic arithmetic to ensure that your business model is viable. For consumer sales, you'll find yourself spending money on social media to advertise product. That's very common these days, certainly for ed tech products. That's a much more expensive proposition in 2020 than it was even 3 or 2 years ago. Whereas a direct sales force that will reach out to schools, school districts, state departments of education, and all the layers between that's something that you have to really plan for and run some arithmetic on. Maybe you've got an incredibly simple product that can be explained in 10 minutes and one person can do a lot. Or maybe like Piper, you have something that needs a little bit of a demonstration, a little explanation. Maybe you'll have to send a demo kit. Maybe that demo kit will be a loaner. You'll have to deal with recovering it, refurbishing it once it comes in for the next demo. Make sure you're adequately resourced to do that.